The night was silent, except for the soft, heartbreaking cries of a baby echoing through the lonely ranch house. The wind howled through the cracks of the old wooden door, and in the flicker of a single lamp, Ethan Carter sat helplessly by the cradle, his rough hands trembling. He was a man who could tame wild horses, mend fences in storms, and plow the hardest land, but this. The tiny cries of his newborn daughter, Lila, pierced his heart deeper than any wound. It had been 3 months since he buried Martha, his beloved wife, the heart of the ranch. The woman who could turn dust into laughter. And since then, the ranch had grown colder, emptier, and quieter, except for the baby's cries that never seemed to stop. Ethan had tried everything. He'd hired nurses, begged neighbors, even attempted to care for her himself, but the little girl wailed endlessly, refusing to be comforted. The ranch hands whispered, maybe the baby feels her mother's absence. And Ethan, who never cried, found himself weeping quietly in the dark. The next morning, under a pale sunrise, Ethan rode into town. His boots were heavy with mud, his eyes red from sleepless nights. He pinned a small notice to the board outside the general store. Help wanted, infant care. Immediate, room, board, and pay. Most people avoided him now, not out of cruelty, but pity. The widowed rancher had become a ghost of himself. Hours later, as dusk began to settle, a timid knock came on his door. Ethan opened it to find a young woman standing in the cold, her dress simple, her hair slightly messy from the wind, and a small carpetbag clutched to her chest. "Are you the one who posted the notice?" she asked softly. Ethan hesitated. "I am. You're here about the baby?" She nodded. "My name's Clara Bennett. I was a nurse once. Before," she paused, eyes flickering with pain. "Before I lost everything." Ethan didn't ask more. He simply stepped aside. "The baby's in there." Clara entered the small nursery, where Lila's tiny face was red from crying. Without a word, Clara lifted the baby into her arms. The crying slowed, then stopped. Ethan froze. For the first time in months, silence filled the room, peaceful, fragile silence. "How did you?" he began. Clara smiled faintly. "Babies can feel grief, Mr. Carter. Sometimes, they just need someone who understands it." That night, for the first time since Martha's passing, Ethan slept. Days turned into weeks. Clara's presence brought warmth back to the ranch. She sang lullabies as she rocked Lila to sleep, cooked simple meals that filled the house with the smell of life again, and even helped Ethan fix fences. Ethan found himself watching her sometimes, the way she smiled at Lila, the tenderness in her touch. There was something broken in Clara too, but it was the kind of broken that matched his own. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the horizon, Ethan asked, "You said you lost everything. What did you mean?" Clara hesitated. Then she said quietly, "My husband died in the war. And I lost my baby soon after. I couldn't save him." Ethan looked down, his throat tight. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "So am I," she said, her voice trembling. "But maybe helping your little girl is my second chance." Their eyes met, two souls, scarred by loss, finding understanding without words. One night, a violent storm rolled across the plains. The wind roared like a beast, rattling windows and tearing down fences. Ethan rushed out to secure the horses, shouting over the thunder. Inside the house, Clara held Lila close, whispering soothing words. But when lightning struck the barn, Ethan didn't return. Panic surged through her chest. She wrapped the baby tight and ran into the storm. She found him struggling to free a trapped mare beneath the collapsed roof. Without hesitation, she joined him, pulling wood aside despite the rain and fear. Together, they freed the animal, both collapsing into the mud, gasping for breath. When Ethan looked at her, soaked, trembling, but alive, something shifted. In that moment, he realized what he'd been missing wasn't just help, it was hope. Weeks passed. The ranch began to thrive again. The animals were healthy, the crops green, and laughter had returned, soft and hesitant at first, but real. One afternoon, Clara found Ethan carving something from wood. When she leaned closer, she saw it, a small rocking horse, smooth and simple. "For Lila," he said, smiling awkwardly. Clara touched the little horse and blinked back tears. "She'll love it." Ethan looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, "Clara, I don't know how to say this, but you saved us. Not just the baby, me too." She smiled gently. "You saved me first." And as Lila's laughter filled the room, the two broken hearts began to beat in rhythm again, not to replace what they lost, but to honor it. Final scene. The truth about love. Months later, the ranch was alive with spring. Lila toddled across the porch, giggling as Ethan chased after her. Clara stood by the doorway, sunlight catching her hair, her eyes full of quiet joy. Ethan stopped beside her, holding the little girl. "You know," he said softly, "when I posted that notice, I was searching for someone to help with my crying baby. But maybe, God sent you here to help me heal." Clara smiled through tears. "And maybe he sent you to remind me that love doesn't die, it just changes shape." Ethan reached for her hand. "Then let's not waste it." And beneath the wide Texas sky, a widowed rancher, a grieving nurse, and a baby girl built a new life, proof that even from heartbreak, something beautiful can still grow. Clapperboard inspiration and message. Sometimes the people we find when we are broken are not meant to replace what we've lost, but to remind us that life, no matter how painful, still holds the power to heal, to love, and to begin again.